History: what type of weapon was tested by Russia in the Arctic? August 13, 2019. As presented here in MD earlier, and now published by the BBC in more detail, 5 Russian nuclear engineers who died in a rocket blast were buried in Sarov, a banned city 373 kilometers east of Moscow, where nuclear warheads are made. What kind of weapon was tested by Russia in the Arctic? Russian state nuclear agency Rosatom said the experts were testing a nuclear engine but gave no further technical details. The test was on an offshore platform in the Arctic on a naval test scale. Russia has already tested a nuclear-powered cruise missile, Burevestnik, but officials have not specified the system involved in Thursday's disastrous test. The blast was followed by a 40-minute radiation spike in Severodvinsk, a town 40 kilometers east of the Nyanoxa test chain near the White Sea. Severodvinsk officials said radiation in the city reached 2 microsieverts per hour, then dropped to 0.11 normal microsieverts. Both levels are too small to cause radiation sickness. 3 other engineers were injured in the blast and are now in the hospital, he told Rosatom. Experts in Russia and the West say the test was probably linked to the 9M730 Burevestnik, which means petrel, a type of seabird. President Vladimir Putin described the missile in a speech to the Russian parliament in March 2018. NATO gave it the SSCX-9 Skyfall designation. Mark Galeotti, a Russian analyst and researcher at the Royal United Services Institute RUSI, says nuclear propulsion presents enormous technical challenges. He told the BBC there is the speed versus the weight of the system, and the risk of a missile expelling radioactive exhaust wherever it goes. These new systems have their origins in Soviet times, they were taken off the shelves and given new investment. Burevestnik's nuclear propulsion, according to Putin, would be unlimited in scope. But the Nyanoxa blast could have involved a different weapon, equally capable of providing a nuclear warhead. A new hypersonic long-range anti-ship cruise missile called Zircon can fly up to 8 times the speed of sound, say the Russian military. A new long-range underwater drone launched from a submarine called Poseidon. What is known about the explosion? The 5 nuclear engineers who died were elite specialists and heroes who knew the risks and performed previous tests under extraordinarily difficult conditions, said Rosatom officer Valentin Kostyukov. He runs Sarov's nuclear center, a secret Cold War era facility responsible for Russia's arsenal of hydrogen bombs. He revealed the names of the 5 as Alexei Vyushin, a designer and software expert; Yevgeny Kortayev, senior electrical engineer; Vyacheslav Lipshev, head of the scientific testing team; Sergei Pikugin, test engineer; Vladislav Yanovsky, deputy head of the scientific testing department. At the funeral, Rosatom head Alexei Lakachev said, "The best way to remind them is to continue our work on new types of weapons, which will be completed without fail." Initially, the Ministry of Defense said the August 8 blast involved a liquid-fuel rocket engine, and gave the death toll as 2, without specifying the victims. Rosatom later said the test involved source of radioisotope boosters and had been performed on an offshore platform. Engineers completed the tests, but suddenly a fire broke out and the engine exploded, throwing the men into the sea, Rosatom said. Shortly after the explosion, Severodvinsk administration reported a 40-minute increase in the city's radiation, and news of this led residents to buy iodine stocks at the city's pharmacies. Iodine pills offer some protection against radioactivity, and there was a huge demand for them during the Chernobyl disaster in 1986. Ahead of the test, the Ministry of Defense imposed an exclusion zone at Vina Bay, the waters north of the Nyanoxa test strip. The zone will remain closed to civil transport until early September. A Norwegian Arctic news site, the Barents Observer, reported that a Russian specialized nuclear cargo ship, the Serebryanka, was within the exclusion zone on 9 August. There is speculation that the ship was deployed to collect any radioactive debris in the event of a failed test, and may be doing just that right now. But the enclosed area can also be a precaution against any toxic rocket fuel leaking into the water where locals go fishing. Is the nuclear-powered missile a watershed? RUSI's Mark Galeotti says there is a lot of skepticism about whether Burevestnik will ever see the light of day. He notes that another state-of-the-art Russian missile, the Bulava, had many years of failed tests. Zircon and Poseidon missiles are more advanced designs. The underwater Poseidon drone already exists as a prototype. But Poseidon, like Burevestnik, seems to be an apocalyptic weapon, says Galeotti, impractical for anything but total nuclear war. Mystery: What type of weapon was tested by Russia in the Arctic? 1. A museum in Sarov 1997 photo has models of the first Soviet atomic bomb in the foreground and bomb H behind. AFP Russian government newspaper Rossiyskaya Gazeta described Burevestnik last month as a weapon of revenge. This was also the phrase used by the Nazis to describe their V rockets fired against the United Kingdom at the end of World War II. The paper said Burevestnik, capable of flying long distances and avoiding air defenses, would target any remaining vital infrastructure after Russian intercontinental ballistic missiles had already reached enemy territory. With the recent collapse of the Mid-Range Nuclear Forces INF Treaty, the U.S. will now focus more on developing the mid-range arsenal, something short of total war, said Galeotti. The Russian military also wants this capability because they are also concerned about China, he added.